going on, people? We back with another one, man. We back with another one. Hey, we about to talk about Errol, Spence, and Terence Crawford and this whole little situation they got going on, man, with all the speculations and all the narratives and just everything that's going on about the situation, man. And, I just wanted to get my 2 cents on it. So a doctor had came out and said that Errol Spence got some type of brain injury and he had some type of brain damage that's caused from the accident, And me personally, man, first off, let me say this. I don't think Errol Spence was right in the fight. When you watch the fight, Errol Spence wasn't right. I ain't making no excuses. Terence Crawford won the fight. He was the better man that night, July 29th. He did his thing. So I'm not making no excuses for his victory. He went out there and did his thing. But 2 things can be true. He did his thing, but at the same time, Errol Spence wasn't right. He just had an off night or whatever it was, but man, just watching the fight, that wasn't Errol Spence in that ring, man. Like, he didn't look like himself. Like, from the beginning, just from even before the fight, just watching his his pad work, while he was warming up, he didn't look right, man. Like, that was the worst pad work I ever seen Errol Spence do in my life. Like, I ended up seeing the pad work after the fight was over with. So initially watching the fight, I see the ring walk. I see, he looked a little off. Like his eyes was like real low, and he just looked off. Like something looked off about him. Then the fight come. I'm watching the fight. I'm like, man, Errol Spence he don't look right. Like he not keeping his hands up. His balance was off. He was telegraphing a lot of his punches. He just didn't look like himself. He wasn't trying to fight in the clinch. And I've been hearing a lot of people say that he wasn't trying to fight in the clinch because Terence Crawford was stronger than him. But if you watch the fight, he wasn't giving effort from the beginning. From the beginning of the fight, in the clinches, he was not giving effort. He literally they would tie up and the referee would either break it up or he would let Terence Crawford push him off of him. He never put in effort to really work on the inside like he normally do. And I'm going to say this, to anybody that's questioning, whether I'm just saying this because I'm an Errol Spence fan and because I picked Errol Spence to win the fight and I'm making excuses for Errol Spence. Look, that replay of that fight is coming out Saturday. This coming Saturday. So watch the fight again and pay attention. Now that everybody heard all the narratives that's been going on and some people didn't see the fight, listen. When that fight came, everybody that was watching that fight was anticipating that fight for so long. So people's anxiety was up. People was drunk as hell. And everything was just happening so fast because we've been waiting for so long for the fight. So I don't think a lot of people really picked up on a lot of stuff that was really happening because the moment was huge. You know what I mean? So now that the fight is over with, everybody knows the outcome. I always say this too. When I watch a fight live, I never see the fight exactly how I see it the second time I watch it. Because especially if I like the fighter, if it's a fighter that I like, I never see the fight how I see it the second time watching it. Because like I say, your anxiety is up. You so just in the moment, it's hard to really catch everything because you don't know what's about to come. You don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? So watch the fight again. It's coming out Saturday, and then it's gonna the epilogue is gonna follow the fight. Pay attention. Pay close attention to how Errol Spence is fighting. Pay attention to the effort that he was putting in the fight. Pay attention to his balance. Pay attention to the way he was throwing his punches. He was like ducking. It's like he wasn't even really on defense. Like normally Errol Spence defense, he blocks, he parries a lot of shots. He was barely keeping his hands up. He kept ducking down. Like every time he would come in on Crawford or Crawford would come in on him, he would just like duck. And then Crawford would just go right over the top of him and just start working. You know what I mean? He was missing jabs. Like I seen the first round, man. Cause I've been watching the little clips that they've been having on YouTube and all that. Man, it was a moment in that first round where Errol Spence literally double jabbed at the air. Like literally at the air. Like Crawford just did like a little subtle pivot and Errol Spence literally double jabbed at nothing. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I get it. Crawford is quick and all that, but that don't explain that. That Errol Spence he has a good boxing IQ and he knows what he's doing in that ring to where he's not about to miss a double jab while he jabbing right here and Crawford all the way over here. You know what I mean? Like his coordination was completely off in the fight. You know what I mean? Due to what? I don't know. So, I mean, I say all that to say, man, I don't know if that's just the best Errol Spence that he got to put out now from here forward because of what the doctor's saying is true, or, you know what I mean? Or I don't know. I'm not even really trying to speculate on what happened, but Terence Crawford did his thing. He took full advantage of the situation, and whatever Errol Spence showed up, that's what he did. But that still don't take away from the fact that that was not a normal Errol Spence in that ring. I know Errol Spence fights 10 times better than that. You know what I mean? Like I say, he was telegraphing his punches. Like he was literally loading up and like he was coming forward and loading up his hooks before he threw them. You know what I mean? Like it was just weird, man. And like I say, if anybody want to debate anything that I'm saying, watch the fight again on Saturday. Watch the fight again and pay attention to how Errol Spence is fighting. Don't pay attention to Crawford. Pay attention to Errol Spence and how Errol Spence is fighting. Pay attention to his movements. Pay attention to his balance. Pay attention to all that stuff. Pay attention to how he's throwing his punches. Pay attention to how he's on defense. Errol Spence fights better than that. So I say all that to say, now they talking about a rematch. Man, listen, I want to see a rematch. I do. I do want to make sure, that he is cleared. I want him to take all the proper steps and figuring out if it is some valid shit what dude was saying, the doctor. You know what I mean? Because he was just a doctor on the internet, so, looking from the outside in, so he don't really know nothing. He can't really say because he ain't really seen Errol Spence, none of his doctor reports or, none of his scans or nothing like that. So, he was just observing and noticing what a lot of people was noticing, like myself. You know what I mean? Like Errol Spence was just off. His coordination was off and he just looked weird. You know what I mean? So, outside of that, if Errol Spence can be clear, if nothing really was going on and it was just an off night, I want to see a rematch. And I think Errol Spence will beat Terence Crawford in a rematch. And I say that because, listen, at first I'm thinking about the situation and I'm like, man, Errol Spence, I don't, just watching it, I'm like, man, that dude Crawford was in the zone. He I don't think he can beat him because of the skill gap was so different. It was so big for Crawford that I'm like, nah, I don't think he can beat him. But when I really think about my breakdown on how I broke down the fight from the beginning, if Errol Spence had his balance, I mean, because the speed of Crawford was crazy. It was crazy. But at the same time, Errol Spence was extra slow. And I noticed the speed gap between them two is not as big as what showed Saturday night. So I say all that to say, with Spence not being 100% and his coordination being off, and him just being just his timing was way off, with all that stuff, man, Crawford still never knocked Errol Spence out. So he got dropped 3 times. So I'm not trying to, say Crawford didn't put him down and all that. But Errol Spence finished that fight on his feet. He finished that fight on his feet. So with all the weird stuff that was going on, he still finished that fight on his feet. And I say that I think he can win a rematch because the reason I thought that Crawford had a chance to win the fight was because he would punch in between Errol Spence combinations and knock Errol Spence out and hurt him and knock him out. He did that night, but with his balance and his coordination being off, that I feel like that played a big part in why he was able to really hurt Errol as bad as he did. And like I say, he didn't knock Errol Spence out. Errol Spence was still conscious. Errol Spence still finished the fight on his feet. So with that being said, if we can get a better Errol Spence, a more normal Errol Spence, if that's possible, like I say, because if what the doctor is saying is true and that's just what we gonna get going forward, he has no shot. But if we can get the Errol Spence that fought Ugas again, he beats Terence Crawford. Because now I know that when he punches in between Errol Spence shots, I know that if Errol Spence is sturdy, he can stand up to that. The dude took a hellacious beating on Saturday night. And like I say, he got dropped, but if you look at the first knockdown, it was the balance. His balance was off. He did lunge with the shot, and Crawford went over top and caught him with the jab and dropped him. But we done seen Errol Spence take way bigger shots than that, and he stood up to him. So I feel the reason he got dropped was because of his balance. Even though he did reach bad, you know what I mean? But he was reaching in the Ugas fight and getting countered. I get it. Ugas don't punch as hard as Terence Crawford, but Ugas was hitting him with some uppercuts and some vicious hooks. Crawford hit him with a jab. You know what I mean? So I would say the jab of Crawford is just as powerful as a power shot from Ugas. You know what I mean? And Errol Spence just ate it and kept going because he had his feet up under him. So, man, I want to see the rematch, man. I want to see the rematch, and I favor Errol Spence in the rematch if we can get 100% Errol Spence. I feel like he's going to be stronger at 154. I feel like, you know what I mean? I feel like, I always felt like we would get the best version of Errol Spence at 154. I feel like that would be his best weight class. 147, I feel like he was always, a little drained from making the weight, but he was just always better than the people that he fought before he ran into Crawford that he was able to get through at 147. At least the last, I would say 3 to 4 years at 147, because earlier in his career at the weight, he was fresh and he was good. But these last 3 or 4 years or so, I felt like it was probably a 70 to 80% Errol Spence, but he was able to beat the competition that he fought, you know, just because he was that much better. And so at 54, if, like I say again, if none of the issues that we saw Saturday night is there, I think he beats Terence Crawford. I mean, I do, man. I think he beats him because now his punch resistance is gonna be better. He got more weight on him. He gonna be stronger. He gonna be faster. And I always felt like the only chance that Terence Crawford had was to knock him out. And I feel like the only reason why he was able to do what he did Saturday is because of his balance. You know what I mean? His coordination, his timing. He was telegraphing his shots. He made it easy for Crawford in there, man. He made the win so easy for Bud. And that's why Bud looked so spectacular. You know what I mean? It's like, it's no way that this fight was so close that damn near anybody that you ask in boxing, fighters, promoters, fans, you know what I mean? Everybody had this a 50-50 fight. You know what I mean? I watched my fair share of boxing, you know what I mean? So I know what I'm looking at when I watch fights. Of course I get predictions wrong. You know what I mean? Everybody get predictions wrong. But I never been this wrong. You know what I mean? Like, as far as just seeing two fighters and just seeing a blowout like that. You know what I mean? Like, so you got to just ask yourself, like, that's probably, if it look unbelievable, it's probably not believable. You know what I mean? So that's just how I see it, man. If it's I don't know, man. That's just how I see it. I'm trying to get out what I want to say without trying to sound like I'm making excuses for Errol Spence, because I'm not. And I'm not trying to take credit away from Bud, because Bud did his thing. But listen, that was not Errol Spence in there, man. It really wasn't. So, like I say, man, I'm gonna just end it here, man. Watch that fight on Saturday night if y'all get a chance. If y'all didn't see the stuff that I'm talking about right now, watch the fight again on Saturday and pay attention to it. Watch Errol Spence. Don't worry about what Bud doing in there, because Bud, I mean, of course you're gonna watch Bud, but really pay attention to how Errol Spence is fighting and how Errol Spence is looking, to really get an understanding of what I'm saying, because I paid attention to that. When I seen Errol Spence getting whooped on, everything went out the window, and I really started zoning in because I was drunk. My anxiety was high. You know what I mean? So once I seen that shit, all that shit went out the window. I'm focused. I'm like, what the fuck is really happening? And then I started paying attention, like, why is Errol doing this? Why is he doing that? Why is he doing this? Why is he doing that? And it wasn't even nothing that Bud, some of the stuff that he was doing had nothing to do with Bud being better than him, or Bud made him fight like that because Bud is better. He didn't have no answers. He couldn't do this. His game plan wasn't working. It wasn't that. It was not what Bud was doing. It was how Errol Spence was fighting. It was how Errol Spence was looking. You know what I mean? But that's just my thoughts on it, man. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments what y'all think, man. Let me know if y'all seen Errol Spence looking weird in the fight. You know what I mean? And if y'all seen some of the stuff I said, man. But I'm gone.